Hello, hello, everybody. We're live. We have Ciji Tatum. She's the founder of Balance Not Busy, and I'm super excited that we're going to dive in just a second and talk to her. We're going to give everyone maybe just a minute or so to log in live so they can join us for the Google Hangout. But before we get started with the introduction, I just want to give you all a few housekeeping tips. If you want to ask questions tonight, you can, as always. You can pop them in the Q&A box right here on Google Hangout. You can also ask your question on Twitter. If you ask a question on Twitter, use the hashtag NTCJ. That's for navigating the career jungle, and I'll be able to find that tweet and get CG to answer your question. So we're going to give it just a second here, and then we'll hop in and I'll do the introduction, but I am so excited for tonight, you all. All right, everyone, we're about to hop in live. This is a 30-minute Google Hangout career strategy session, so it's going to zoom by, so please hop on in and ask your questions on the Q&A side. So let me tell you a little bit about Ciji, and I'm going to read her Twitter bio because I think it's fab. She's a public relations manager, runner, servant leader, Jesus lover, pure bar enthusiast, loved, hashtag lucky lady, my opinions are my own, and go ahead and follow Balance Not Busy. So, Ciji, I just gave your Twitter bio, which is a short summary. Why don't you fill in the gap and tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Sure thing. So like you mentioned, I am a public relations manager. I work at Cox Communications, and I recently just started their amazing journey thus far. Prior to that, I was actually in the marketing world for 10 years. So I worked for Red Bull North America for 6 of those 10 years and with an agency in New York for 4 years. So I've done a little bit of everything, enjoying the ride right now with Cox. Great company and doing a lot of really cool things. I don't believe that life is all about work. So my time is also filled with a ton of other things, including volunteerism. So I'm extremely involved in the Junior League of Atlanta. I serve as the Leadership Retreat co-chair this year, as well as I am the immediate past president of the Urban League of Greater Atlanta Young Professionals. I'm also on the board of an organization called Flux Projects, which peeks into the cultural curiosity of the arts and culture in Atlanta. I am also a graduate of the Lead Atlanta class of 2013, which is a 9-month leadership professional development program. I'm also a graduate of the New Leaders Council, which is an organization that works with folks that are really dialed into their political landscape. And I did that program actually in Louisiana. And I also do just other various volunteer programs across Atlanta and across the country. So that's why I consider myself a servant leader. Like you mentioned, Jesus lover. So I'm a believer, as well as pure bar enthusiast. So If you have not heard of or done Pure Barre, I highly suggest it, and adding it to your fitness regimen. But I have been doing Pure Barre for about a year now. I've hit the 100 class mark. Absolutely love it. And when I'm not at the bar, the Pure Barre, I am running, and just really staying healthy. Health and wellness is super important to me. So those are the things that really fill my time, and take all of my energy.
Well, thank you. And I think that sets us up perfectly for you to tell us what the Balance Not Busy movement is and really tell us how it got started from the hashtag.
Yeah, and I love that you reference it as a movement. That is something that just really makes me smile and warms my heart. A few years ago, I started using the hashtag Balance Not Busy really just as a kind of a personal mantra. I wanted to acknowledge that I was doing a lot, and I was posting about it and sharing it on social media. And that was just kind of my personal way of keeping track of it all. And as I started to use it, other people were using it. They would retweet me, or they would mention, "Oh my gosh, I'm, as CG would say, I'm being balanced, not busy today." And I was like, "Oh, that's cute and fun." But I never thought that it would be what it's become today. And really, it truly is a movement that inspires and encourages people to prioritize their time so that they're living a balanced life and they're not bogged down by the stress of living a busy life. And recently, I launched an Instagram page using Balance Not Busy as the handle. I've also launched a Twitter page. We're working on a really cool website concept that will launch in 2016. And I've really just leveraged, all of the things that are important to me, that I've kind of deemed as practical solutions to how you can be balanced.
I absolutely love that. So, to piggyback on that, and let me take a step back. I was first introduced to Ciji. I had heard about her a lot in Atlanta, almost like a mythical superwoman who was in everything. When I was the vice president of professional development at the CDC, someone mentioned, we got to get Ciji here. I think it was Rashawn Lane. She said, we got to get Ciji as our keynote speaker. And that's when I got introduced to the Balance Not Busy movement. And I was like, oh my goodness, we need this. We need to move from just being super busy. And I like when you tell your story and in your bio, it mentions a lot of the different things that you do, but it is a balanced list of things that you do. It's not just one bucket of things. So in the same vein as that, what does navigating the career jungle mean to you?
For me, I have never been the type of person that sits down and makes a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan and says, this is what I want to accomplish and this is where I want to be. And not to say that that's bad, it just hasn't been my style. I've really fallen into amazing opportunities that have allowed me to grow as a professional, that have allowed for me to learn, more about myself, make me a better person. And I've just really been afforded amazing opportunities. I've been blessed to have great managers that have really cared about my success and my growth, and helped to craft and shape, really, what I would deem as my professional career. And one thing that's kind of interesting that you call it a jungle. For me, the jungle side has been more so about managing my time, and being present during the day, and really making sure that I'm working at a level of excellence at all times while also managing the other a million and one things that I'm super passionate about, but making sure that they don't get in the way of kind of knocking out my to-do list and getting the things done that I need to get done. And that's really the jungle for me. So when I think about the ideal jungle structure and kind of roping through the forest and the trees there, that's kind of what I would picture it as. Less about my own professional development and where I'll be in 5 years, and more about living in the now and navigating what I'm currently working on.
Excellent. So you mentioned that you don't really do the 5-year plan, but can you tell me, what did you want to be when you were a little girl?
So I wanted to be an attorney, and I really wanted to be an attorney as a little girl, as a teenager. all the way really up until my sophomore year of college. I thought that that was where I was going. And it's funny how life takes you and places you in different situations that can craft your way of thinking.
So where did the shift come from you wanting to be an attorney until becoming this marketing maven?
Well, the primary reason why I wanted to be an attorney was because I wanted to help people. I felt like I had a lot to say and I could defend someone's case. I truly felt like I could do that for people. If I believed in what they were about and if I believed in what their stance was, I could help them. And the shift really came because, even more specifically, I wanted to be an entertainment attorney. And I knew that I was going to study PR, public relations, in undergrad, and then the plan was to go to law school and to kind of have this holistic approach of the communications world. And as I dived more into my public relations major and started taking my main classes, I realized that I could actually help people in PR. And I could help people by crafting their story, by helping them navigate through different situations like crisis communications and how to deal with the media. And I realized that that was another way that I could help people. And ironically, the more I dived into PR at the time, what was fairly popular was the events world. So I started to intern in events. And lo and behold, as I learned more about that very niche industry of events, it turned into event marketing. And then I moved into a space where I was really working with brands and people to figure out how to amplify who they were through an event. So then I landed in event marketing, and that's where I lived for my 10 years of my career. And most recently, I went back to my roots in public relations.
So what was your very first job?
My very first job was actually working at my university, my alma mater, Clark Atlanta University. I was the orientation program manager, which was a position created for me after I was the orientation guide chair person while I was in college. And I did a great job, and I worked in the Office of Student Affairs for all 4 years while I was in college. So they created that role for me, and I was there for 9 months. Working to help get students acclimated to the collegiate experience and getting them into school.
I absolutely love that. And you're dropping so many gems. So from having a position created for you very early on at a university to your career trajectory with Red Bull North America, what qualities do you think have made you successful?
First and foremost, time management. I can literally take a to-do list that is a mile long and finish it because I can look at it and prioritize what needs to be done now. When can I accomplish this, when I'm at my best? So I'm a morning person. So if my to-do list has, a lot of writing or a lot of things where I need to concentrate, I have to do it in the morning. If I do it in the morning and I knock it out, then I can move into the other things that's more like check my email, return phone calls, things that don't require as much, still a lot of thought, but as much thought as really like creating a report or creating a presentation or writing a paper. So I do those things in the morning. And because I do that, by the end of the day, I've literally knocked out what most people would knock out, in a week. So then that time management skill turns into, wow, she has an amazing work ethic because she can take a task and finish it way faster than someone else. And, it's one of those things that you have to continuously hone in on, and you have to be really self-aware. Like, I have to acknowledge that I'm a morning person. And if you give me something at 3 p.m. that you need done by 4, I'm going to struggle a little bit with it, but I have to be honest with myself and really try to work through what that looks like. So that's a skill set that I've taken into every role.
It looks like we lost Ciji there for a second, and I'm going to get her right back on. I just want to remind you all, if you have any questions, go ahead and send your questions through the Q&A feature here on Google Hangout. You can also send your question to us via Twitter. If you are tweeting, use the hashtag NTCJ for navigating the career jungle, and we'll answer your questions. So we're just waiting for CG to get reconnected to the Hangout. We absolutely love technology, so we're just going to roll with it. But I want to thank Tracy for tweeting with us tonight. To-do list, she totally agrees about the to-do list and time management. Thanks so much, Tracy, for joining us. So are you enjoying this or what? CG has so many great tips. When she gets back on the Hangout, we're going to take it a step further, and she's going to share with us some tips that we can use to live a balanced versus a busy life. So if you have any questions, go ahead, pop them in on the Q&A, and you can also send your questions on Twitter using the hashtag NTCJ. So I'll let you know, one of the things that really inspires me about CG is that she always has a great attitude. When you talk about a personal brand, I mentioned to her before we went live, I was at a meet and greet happy hour and someone was telling CG's story. And that's what your brand is. Your brand is what people say when you're not in the room. And everybody has the same fabulous, amazing things to say about CG. So CG, I was just telling everyone that we were going to hop in and get you to share some tips for us. How can we create a balance versus a busy lifestyle?
Well, the first thing I would say is really identify what matters most to you. Like for me, forgive me, you guys, I had to switch to a different device. My balance, not busy lifestyle is all over the place today, apparently. But really identify.
Just adjust the screen, CG, because all we can see are your beautiful lips.
Oh, okay. Can you see me now?
There we go.
Awesome. Okay. So just to answer your question about, creating a balance versus a busy lifestyle, really identify the things that matter most to you. So for me, my faith, volunteerism, health and wellness, my professional career, those are the things that matter most to me. Travel, friendships, family. So when I think about all of the invites or meeting requests or list of to-dos, if they don't fall into those buckets, I take a serious and thoughtful consideration on how much of my time can I give to that item. And I have to be very thoughtful about it. And I have to be pretty stern when it comes to non-negotiables. I'm very adamant about finding my own personal time. I'm very adamant about going to bed and getting 8 hours of sleep. People look at my social media accounts and they're like, when does she sleep? Well, you would never know because I don't post on social media when I'm sleeping. So, that's an important element to me that I think you really have to think about what do you need and what are your non-negotiables, and then how will you determine how you're going to live a balanced lifestyle. And then the other thing, really is that the thought of busyness or the art of busyness is extremely glorified in our society. People like to say that they're busy. They like to tell people, oh my gosh, I have so many things I'm working on. It's almost as if we've created an environment that people feel like they will be appreciated, respected if they say that they're busy, and the reality is that it's just not healthy. It's not healthy to work long hours and not ever take a break, or not be good to your body, not be kind to your friends, to your family. It's not a healthy lifestyle. So the reality is that if you are hung up on I've got to be busy, I've got to tell people I'm busy, I've got to make sure everyone knows that I'm doing this and this, you're really not living a balanced lifestyle. You're really not going to reach your full potential and experience such colorful and amazing adventures in this journey called life, because you're not accepting the fact that some things are a little off skewed.
And how do you suggest we recognize when things are off skew? Because with being involved in so many organizations and you're a leader in the community, how do you dial into it and say, okay, I need to take a step back?
It's hard to say no. I'll be honest with you, especially when it comes to volunteering. I am often voluntold, and, I have mentors and I have people that I respect. And when they ask me to do something, I'm inclined to do it. But the reality is that you just have to manage everyone's expectations. You know, ask the questions up front. When someone says, I'd like for you to be on my board, ask them what the time commitment is. Ask them what they will expect of you. And then when they tell you, hold them to it. You know, say, hey, you know, I'd love to help, but when we first discussed my time commitment, you shared that you just needed me to attend a couple of meetings a month and provide insight. And I've noticed that there's been a trend that I've been, you know, on several conference calls. I've been asked to come into several strategic meetings, and just remind them, you know, I'd love to, but at this time in my life, it's just not the right time for me to give that level of commitment. And you truly have to be honest with yourself and recognize that people that care about you, want to see you grow, want to see you take the next step, and want to see you reach your full potential will understand that. And nothing's wrong with sharing that with people. And I know as young professionals, you know, we fear that type of conversation in the work environment. We believe that, you know, I have to come early, I have to work late, you know, I have to do those things in order to build my career. However, the reality is that when you're doing those types of things and you're making all of this money, but then you have no free time to spend it on traveling or spend it with your family or spend it on, you know, getting your nails done or going shopping or things like that, then you have to really take a step back and just think through, you know, is this really where I want to be? Is this what I'm pursuing? Do I have a goal? Am I putting in all of these hours because I want to reach a specific goal by a specific time frame? Or am I just being busy to be busy?
I like that. You mentioned something earlier about being self-aware, and then learning when to dial it back is, again, tapping into that same self-awareness. So very key. One thing that's always important to all of us, well, not always important, but important to a lot of us, and most of the time I get this question from millennials: how did you connect to mentors? You referenced that you have a lot of mentors. How did you connect with them, and what are your tips for maintaining those relationships?
Absolutely. Well, I knew that mentoring would be important while I was in college, primarily because I moved here to Atlanta to attend college from Texas, and I didn't have family or friends here when I first moved here. So I very quickly, you know, identified people on campus, whether it was a professor or an administrator that I looked up to. And then I just had the conversation with them and I said, you know, I really look up to you. I didn't necessarily go in and say, will you be my mentor? But I said, I look up to you and I'd love to just kind of keep you in my back pocket. I'd love to talk to you more. I'd love to pick your brain, you know, things like that. And that was kind of my collegiate experience. And then as I moved into postgraduate life, I actually created a board of life. And I had a group of friends, a group of girlfriends that held me accountable for things that I said I would do. I started doing midweek check-ins with my friends. And if I didn't do a midweek check-in, people called me out on it. You know, hey, have you gotten too busy to call your friend? And you know, I kind of developed a new type of mentorship where it was more of my peers. Then once I moved in to more of my professional career and I started getting really involved with organizations, I really just fell underneath the guidance of different people that were either in those organizations or in my work environment. And I will tell anyone, you should have a mentor for every area of your life. So I had mentors in the urban league, you know, I had mentors in the junior league. I have mentors at work. I have mentors at past work, you know, situations. So I still have mentors at Red Bull, and some of them have gone on to leave Red Bull and I've left Red Bull, but we still talk. And, you know, I still have very specific things that I want to ask them and I want to know more about. And then as I got older and I had more to bring to the table, mentorship is a two-way street. So in the same way that my mentors mentor me, I mentor them. You know, I have mentors that are in marketing and, you know, they have questions. They want to know more about how can I leverage social media? How can I work with millennials in the workplace? You know, so when I have conversations with my mentors, we're now giving each other information. They're giving me best practices. I'm giving them best practices. And we're both really coming to the table with something to offer.
I like that. And just like networking where it's mutually beneficial, the same rule applies to mentorship. It needs to be a mutually beneficial relationship. So if you have any questions, I just want to remind you all, you can ask the question using the Q&A feature here on Google Hangout, or you can pop your question in on Twitter. So, CG, I was doing a little Instagram stalking in preparation, right? And I see that you travel a lot, but you also read a lot. What's the last book that you read?
I read How to Be Rich by Andy Stanley, an amazing book that was actually recommended to me by a coworker. And I mean, I cannot say enough about how great this book was. It was basically a lesson in how you apply your blessings to be a blessing to others. And it was a very just general, way of looking at pouring into other people's lives. And it doesn't necessarily always have to be a financial commitment, but as servant leaders, you're doing more than volunteering or serving on a board. You're truly inspiring and encouraging people to live the life that they're meant to live. So it was great. Easy read, one plane trip, and I was done.
I love it. So, in the same vein of inspiring others, what inspires you? Where do you get your daily inspiration from?
Oh my gosh, the question should be, where do I not get my daily inspiration from? I am forever reading everything. I mean, from the Bible to BuzzFeed articles, literally. So I mean, I'm I have a pretty strict morning routine. I start with some type of devotion, or meditation. I then move into Twitter. I follow Inc. I follow Entrepreneur. I follow Fast Company. I get a lot of good nuggets from there about productivity, and just how to live your best day every single day. I get a lot of inspiration from friends. So just little nuggets here and there. People may sew into me something, and I'll take a quote. I love quotes. So I walk around all day reading things like BeHappy.org. They send a daily quote that I've subscribed to on my email. I read a ton of articles from Huffington Post to BuzzFeed to just anything I can find on Twitter or anything that someone lists on Facebook. So please be careful about what you post because I'm probably reading it.
Okay, you heard it. That was a warning. Be careful what you post. So before we wrap up, CG, I really want to tackle something that a lot of people have a hard time with in the social media world. We get to see all the highlights of a person's life, but we don't get to see the background work. So can you tell us about a career challenge that you experienced? Take us to the exact moment, and then tell us how you overcame that challenge.
Oh, wow. I mean, I've had varying different types of career challenges. Let's see, one specifically, I mean, and it's kind of overarching, so I hope it answers your question, but um, you know, I travel a lot for work and I absolutely love it. And it's been very different depending on what role and company I was working with. But one thing I'll say, it is a challenge to stay connected to family when you travel. Because of time zones and things like that. So I have always kind of thought, what would a life without traveling for work be like? But then I can't even imagine it because I think I would not enjoy, going to work knowing that my next work trip wasn't around the corner. So it's a struggle, but it's also a little bit of a selfish satisfaction. But I mean, I hope that kind of answers it because other than that, I haven't had too many crazy challenges. Like I said before, I mean, I'm probably an exception to the rule, but I've been extremely blessed with really awesome opportunities.
And I think one of the things that plays a big part in that is that your mindset, you have a positive attitude and you're very optimistic. And having a mindset of gratitude and just oozing out positivity, it's hard to stay stuck on a challenge when you approach life that way. So it makes perfect sense that you really don't have those challenges because that's not the way you see life. So before we leave, can you tell us how to connect with you online and give us a parting piece of guidance?
Absolutely. So I hope that everyone has pen and paper ready to go. If you want to get some practical solutions to living balanced and not busy, I suggest heading over to Balance Not Busy on Instagram and Twitter. If you want to just keep up with my comings and goings on my personal page, you can go to at Ciji, Ciji, B as in boy, HNEE on Twitter, and Ciji Tatum, my first and last name, on Instagram. And there's also a website that's coming in 2016 that will just be full of goodies and awesome nuggets to take away. And that is balancednotbusy.com. And for a parting thought, I think that there's so much opportunity for people to reach their full potential if they truly take the time to assess what they're already working on and what they're already doing and prioritize it and make sure that it's balanced and not busy. And can you imagine what a world would be like with everyone reaching full potential, living at 100%, and really just, making the world a better place? My favorite quote of all time is "Be the change that you wish to see in the world" by Gandhi. And I think if we all would just live that way, we really would be in a great space.
Thank you so much, Ciji, for joining us, and to the Navigating the Career Jungle community. I really appreciate you joining us for another career strategy session. When Ciji's website launches, you better believe I will be sharing it so that you all can check out the site and subscribe to the newsletter and everything else that she has going on. So thank you again, Ciji, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.